What is up guys, Sharpwind here. Now I know you guys usually vote on my tutorials, but this one is not. Someone recently asked me, hey, where's the weapon pack? And that reminded me, I still have to make the weapon pack. So I currently have a lot of things going on, yeah? Divided, making tutorials for you guys, learning Maya for college, this weapon pack, and of course, school. I simply cannot do everything at once, so I thought about combining the tutorials and the weapon pack to give you a tutorial on advanced weapons. Now I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will like this, because who doesn't want to make nice weapons, eh? I mean, if you guys want more, comment your suggestions in the comment box. Just don't suggest more weapons, because I kinda explained how weapons work in this video. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, I recommend you join my Discord server, because I spend a lot of my time on there. Also, if you want more tutorials like this, be sure to click the subscribe button, because it helps me out a lot. Now with that on the side, let's get on the video. Here we are on the desktop. First things first, I want to give you an insight about how item sheets work. Now if I open mine-imator, which is another thing, you can see me using mine-imator 1.1.2. You don't have to worry about that, because all the things that I'm going to be using in this tutorial are supported in the newer version, so you don't have to worry about this being outdated. This tutorial isn't outdated, and it's not going to be outdated for a long time, because it uses very simple mechanics. Don't worry about this. So I've opened up a random project, and what I want to show you is, let's say I import an item, and I don't like this image that it uses, so I want to browse for a random item sheet. Let's say I want to browse for this items 2 that I made a while ago when I didn't know that this is not how you do an item sheet. Let's just import that. And as of mine-imator 1.1.2, I believe, I might be wrong, you can now change the size of individual squares. Like, you can determine how many squares you want the image to have. And by default, this is set to 16. Now, you will get crashes if you do something like this, because this just doesn't match with the resolution of the image. And these squares are now splitting individual pixels in half, because the resolution is not right to actually divide this by 18. So you will get a crash if the numbers don't match, but by default this is set on 16. I can guarantee you, you will never crash if you go for 8. As you see now, this square up here is twice the size. Technically, this is now 23 by 23, because it can have 2 items in it. So you can have more quality items for the same file size. This is very important, because this image isn't gonna lag your project, but you can still get 23 by 23 items without locking 4 16 by 16 items together. This is very important. I want to use this mechanic for my rigs. So in this folder I have a bunch of item sheets. Don't worry about them, we're gonna focus on this one. This is the basic item sheet, like the default one, the one you get straight from mine-imator. If I open this up with paint.net, this is how the regular item sheet looks like. This square up here, the one I'm painting on, is exactly 16 by 16 pixels. Previously, if you wanted to get a 23 by 23 item sheet, you would have to go to Image, Resize, and scale this number by twice its size. So in this case it would be 512. Take this to nearest neighbor so you don't get any blur on it, so the quality remains exactly the same. And this is now it. This square is now a lot bigger. This is how you usually used to get the high quality items. But now, with the new mechanics, I could in theory just do this. I have erased all the middle squares. Now this is one big square. If I try to import this, let's save this for this test. As you see, if I change the values here to 8, as I did before, you can see that this first square fits in the image perfectly. I have one big square, even though I erased the middle ones. So technically, this is a 64 by 64, because it was a 32 by 32 before, but I erased the middle squares, making them twice as large, and this is now one item. So technically, it's a 64 by 64 item grid, but with the file size of a 32 by 32 item sheet. The file size is 32 by 32, but the resolution is 64 by 64. I can reduce the file size, but increase the quality dramatically. The image for the item sheet is small enough not to cause any kind of lag, but you can still afford 64 by 64 items without locking individual items together. This is a huge advantage, and this is the kind of mechanic that I want to use in my weapon pack, and it's the kind of mechanic I am using. By doing this, you maximize efficiency. No crashes, awesome rigs, no lags. This is perfect. Now that you know how item sheets work, I want to come back to this folder, including these item sheets. This right here is a 23 by 23 item sheet which has enlarged squares, like we just did before. So technically it's a 64 by 64 item sheet. If I open the properties, you can see it's only 2 kilobytes in size. On the disk that's 4 kilobytes, but that's nothing. This is not gonna crash anything. I want to use this texture as my base. Copy this texture, paste it on the desktop. I always want to keep a backup in this file so I don't lose it. Now I will give a download link to all of these presets and a bit more because I see I don't have all the variants yet. I will give you all the variants as well. And the download link will be in the description for you to download all of these item sheets for your needs. Now the weapon we'll be making is this Scythe. This is the last item of the weapon pack that I haven't made yet, so the weapon pack will be released shortly. But today we're making this Scythe because I haven't done it yet. And I really want to do it on camera so you can see how I make all of these great weapons. Rename the file Shadow Scythe Item Sheets, but open this up with Paint.net. Paint.net is a free and simple software and can be used by anyone. There's no need to use Photoshop or anything advanced because Paint.net has you covered with everything you need for something as simple as an item rig. Now I also want to open this reference image in Paint.net. By the way, all of the designs in this video were made by Candy. So thank you Candy for giving me all of these designs to make a weapon pack. It's thanks to her the weapon pack is gonna be out and you can thank her that this weapon pack even exists. Thank you Candy, you're the best. So I want to select this item, copy it, and come back to this image. Now I want to make a new layer. If you don't see the layers panel, just click F5 to make it appear or disappear. This layer 2 will be dedicated to my reference image. I don't want to increase the canvas because that will mess up my measurements, but this is now the side that I want to replicate. First things first, click the layer properties and make it semi-transparent so I can see what I'm doing underneath. Turn the image around so it's turned the right way and scale it down by holding shift so I don't mess up the measurements or deform it. The blade here is gonna be one separate item, so I want to position it somewhere where I can just put the whole thing in one square. I'm looking at how this is gonna be positioned. This blade here fits in all of these squares nicely. I'm gonna put it here. Now as you see, this blade fits into each of every one of these squares without using up too much space. Am I right? Do you agree with me? I mean, so layer 2 is reserved for this reference image. The background is reserved for all the little brackets here. So I want to make a new layer in between, and this is going to be my main layer. On layer 3, I'm gonna draw all the weapons. Grab a paintbrush or a line tool or a pencil, but something you gotta be careful about. If you choose the paintbrush or the line tool, make sure to toggle this icon until you get the squares. Because if you don't do that, you are going to get semi-transparent pixels. These on the edge, these pixels are what cause glitching on your weapons. You're gonna be able to see through them and it's gonna be glitched and weird. Don't! You cannot afford this. However, if I click this to get the squares, there will be no semi-transparent pixels. This is all perfect. Now I'm just gonna draw. If you mess anything up, feel free to use the eraser tool. But again, don't do this because now I'm getting semi-transparent pixels here. Always use the squares. This is very important. Okay, I've done the edges, which are harsh, but for this part, which is curved, I want to use a pencil and draw it manually. You can take all the time you want. I am pretty satisfied with the shape. But as you see, this weapon has holes on the inside. And these holes are obviously not gonna be a solid part of the weapon. There's gonna be a hole, so I gotta draw the holes as well. You can use the line tool to also do basic curves, like you can move. This is now it. This is the weapon that I want. This is the shape that I want. And I also see this goes out of the square a little bit, and this will require me to select this square if I want to finish the item. I don't really like that, so I want to deselect this, select layer 3, and move the entire thing so it fits a square nicely. I kind of want to position it up here so I keep it organized. Like this is the slot for my main weapon thing. Look, I try to place it so it doesn't use up too much space. So now it uses this square, the next square, the next square, the next square, and then this square down here. These are all the slots that it uses. Try to minimize the space that you use. I want to use a bucket tool and paint everything. So this is now the shape of my weapon. Pretty satisfied with it, except this part here. There, this is better. Just make adjustments if needed. Now I want to grab a wand tool and give this an iron texture. Now this is a pretty fun part. So grab the brush tool, now you need the brush tool, and select a gray color. Choose a brush size that's not too big but not too small. R50 is good for this. So I want to paint everything. Now I want to give it some texture. Remember, if I click this and paint anywhere, you will now get soft edges. I kind of need the soft edges right now. For the texture, you need the soft edges. So unclick that. Go to the colors window, click more. Now select a very dark color and decrease the opacity of your brush to about 20 or so. Now if I click somewhere, it's only going to make it slightly darker, but not too much. I can randomly click anywhere on the image to get some nice textures. Now it's too dark, so I want to go for a white color. Of course, the opacity down. Play around with this until I get something good. Okay, I kind of like how this looks like it's a nice iron thing. So this is what I want to use for my texture. Now comes a very annoying part. I don't want this weapon to be flat. I want to have some extrusions on the blade, like that's normal. I want to copy this entire blade and paste it on another set of squares. And then take away some of the edges. Then I'm gonna put this smaller blade into the bigger one and extrude it. So it's gonna look like a nice extrusion, but it's just image manipulation. Select layer 3 and select the first square. Click this, so now anything you will select will only add on to your selection. Then select the second square, and the third one, and select all the squares that you're gonna need. There, my weapon is on these 5 squares. Click the copy icon. Click the paste icon. Now paste this weapon on the next set of squares so it perfectly aligns with the edge. Now this second weapon is positioned exactly the same way as the first one. Now comes a very annoying part. You have to manually select all the pixels that you want to be in your image. Let's say I select this. Play with these tools. Now, I don't want this last pixel here, so I'm gonna click the subtract and then select this. So whatever you select here will get subtracted from your main selection. I want to go to add and select some more. What I'm selecting on the image right now is gonna be the extrusions on the weapon. Any pixel I select now is gonna be extruded on my weapon. I think that's pretty clear at this point. So I want to keep like 1 pixel margin around the edges. Now halfway through you're gonna see you did almost nothing yet, so reevaluate your life choices. This part is very time consuming. Even select the pixels around this hole here. Like, be careful about your texture. You want an extrusion around the hole too. Don't cover it up. Okay. Now it might be a good thing to mention that you want to keep an extra lot of space on the blade. The blade is supposed to be sharp, so you gotta give it more space. There has to be more space between the extrusion and the blade to make it look like it's more sharpened up than the rest of the edges. You see what I mean here. Okay, I believe I'm finally done. This is it. This is now extruded. You won't believe this took a lot of time. Now click this invert icon. So now your selection will be inverted. So you selected everything you didn't select before. And click the delete button while being on layer 3, of course. So now you see you have the same shape, but there's a bit less to it, like the edges are gone, it looks more thin. Go to the background and delete all of these background things. Delete them. You don't need them. Also this one down here, because this one is a part of this square and it's going to be visible in the item. Also delete this one. Basically delete all the squares in the top row because I don't need any of these. This is now clean. I have the first shape, which is the blade. Now do the exact same thing for all the other items. Now I'm seeing something. This item won't fit into 2 squares. It's a bit short on the third one. So I want to skip this one and leave it for the end because I need realistic measurements. Now I'm going to do these black things on the side. I just need one of them and I can just duplicate them in mine-imator. So just draw over this one. This simple item here also needs some texture. You can't have it be pitch black. So select a brighter color, lower the opacity, use the brush, of course use a smaller brush, and do the same I think this is it. Like, I only need one. I am going to extrude this, but I'm gonna use another one of these items to extrude. I'm just gonna copy it. Now that I have all the measurements right here, I'm going to scale the image down in order to only use 2 squares in here. Okay, still don't get the last square. I mean, I want to scale it down just a little bit. And if it's necessary, I'm gonna scale it up in mine-imator. Let's say this is it. I'm only gonna use these 2 squares. I'm gonna squeeze it tightly, but I think it's gonna go. Whew. Select layer 3. Don't draw on layer 2 because that's your image. Select layer 3 and draw on it. Be careful not to go over this pixel here. Like, you can't go over it. This is your limit right here. This pixel there. I'm all safe. This is it. I have my other side and it's only using 1 single pixel. Paint it black, make sure to get all the pixels. Select it, paint it gray, make it soft. Select a dark color, lower the opacity. Draw random shapes. It's too dark, draw more white shapes. Actually, I messed it up. This was supposed to be purple. This was supposed to use the color scheme of Candy's rig. So I want to open Candy's skin in here and pick up this pixel in particular. It's always this one, the brightest one. So the colors are identical. Paint it in that color. Do the same method, but with this color. And also, Candy required me to make a fade. Like, the outside was supposed to be dark, the inside was supposed to be light. I don't think that's too good, so I want to invert it. So the inside is going to be dark and the outside is going to be bright. So I just want to click on the inside more often than on the outside. And I think this looks pretty damn nice. So I want to select both of these squares, copy paste them and align them with the second squares. The reason I'm doing it by squares is so that it's perfectly aligned. Now the boring part, select all the pixels again. I've selected. You won't guess how long it took me. Inverse selection. Be careful not to select any of these pixels. Delete. Now we have the extrusions on this one. Go to background, erase all of these brackets that you obviously don't need. There, I don't think there's any in the way now. But so far, we have the blade, the pink thing, the black things. All we need now is the handle and this little handle cap at the end. These are the only 2 things I need for my rig. I'm gonna keep the handle in here, like these two squares here are gonna be for the handle. I don't actually need this as a reference. I simply need the width. It's about this thick, and now I simply want to paint this area. Like, make this invisible. This is how thick it is right now. So I'm gonna move this to the center. I want to give this some texture. I want the handle to be black. This is it. But you see those little specks in between? Like, I want to keep this purple. So I want to select a bright pixel, such as this one. Decrease the opacity. I'll try to see how this would look. Okay, let's take a pencil. I mean, this doesn't look too bad. I'm drawing random strokes. We'll see how that goes, right? Now, I want to do something. I want to copy this, maybe even more. Like, let's go for something like a half. Copy it, paste it, turn it upside down. So now the bottom texture is on the top as well. I'm gonna use this as a segment. So when I use these in conjunction, I want to make them so they fit well with one another. So I copied the bottom texture on the top, so the top is gonna be the next bottom. This is what I did. Now the final thing, I need this cap. Oh, wrong layer, undo. Now I can move it. Miniature heart attack. Draw the cap, make the extrusion as always, and I'll meet you up in mine-imator. Actually, I won't meet you in mine-imator because we still have to export this. Listen carefully. Make this reference layer invisible by clicking this. Go to File, Save As, Shadow Side Item Sheets, but it says paint.net file. Select this and go to PNG. Has to be a PNG. JPEGs don't work because they don't support transparency. This is essential what you do here. Save it, replace the file because it already exists. Now click OK and flatten. This will eliminate all the layers, put them all together. Click flatten, but then press Ctrl+C to undo this change, so keep the layers, but the image is already exported. So you have the image, but you also keep the layers. Don't close this yet, just minimize it in case you need to make some changes or something. Open up mine-imator. Again, all versions work. Yeah, sick description. Now for the fun part. We're going to build this weapon. Make a new item, call it Blade 1. This is the first part of my blade. Browse for the image we just made on the desktop. Be sure to hit this, put it on 8:8 because this is how we designed the item sheet to be 8x8. Click OK. And now you want to select the first part of your blade. This is now the first part of my blade. I want to put this in a folder, blade, because the entire blade is going to be in this folder, and this is the first part. Now I want to raise it up just a little bit. Add the second item, call it blade 2. Choose this image, which is already imported, select the second part. Lock this blade on blade 1. Blade 1 has a different position relative to the folder. You want to lock it on blade 1 so it keeps the position. Click this grid icon so you can only move it by 16 units. Then you can simply snap it on place because you can only move the item by 16 units. This is a pretty old trick, it's been in mine-imator for a while, but in case you didn't know, here it is if you want to use it. Add the new item, blade 3, select the image, select the third one. Again, lock it on blade 1, don't lock it on blade 2, lock it on blade 1. Everything is going on blade 1 from now on. Yeah, that's it. This is now your blade. This is how you get the blade in mine-imator, by the way. I want to rename this item on the timeline, blade. Like, it should be called blade 1 in the library, but it should be called blade on the timeline. So when you close this up, it doesn't get confusing what's what. Now, I want you to add the next item, call it blade 6. Browse for the second row of the blade items. I want you to use this modified blade, which we took the edges out of. Lock it on blade 1. And now as you see, it's not completely at the edges, it's still missing something. Add the next item, blade 7, select the next image, lock it on blade 6 now, and everything from now on is going to be locked on blade 6. Okay, yeah, move it in place. Also, to avoid confusion, rename blade 6 on the timeline to extrusions. Now it's called blade 6 in the library, but it's called extrusions in the timeline. So when you minimize all this, these are going to be your extrusions. Once you have all of that done, you can click blade 1, go to scale, click this icon to have all the settings here, scale it down. So you have a thin blade, which is sharp as hell. Like, thin blades are sharp. Now, select the extrusions, go for Z and scale that up. Now as you see, we made the extrusions on the blade. This is now a very handsome blade. We took out the edges, and what we selected there is what is extruded now. This is now your blade. I can close this blade up now. Now I want to open up this reference image here, zoom in, and I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 black things. So I want to import a new item, call it strap, because this is a black strap. At least I think that's what it is. Import this item, strap, lock it on the blade as a folder now, and mess with the custom rotation point so you can put it in the center. I think this is the center. I think now this strap is in the center. Now I want to move it in place. Okay, let's turn off the grid because I don't need it anymore. Somewhere close to the edge. So let's go for somewhere here. Scale the Z together so it's not too thick. Scale down the Y so it's not too big. Now what I want to do is duplicate the strap and lock it on itself. Now this strap is up here. Put all of its position to 0. Put all of the scale to 1. So now it's exactly the same size as this one. Now I can scale it down a bit. Extrude that. And you just got an extrusion from the same item as before. I used the same item, but I did get this extrusion. That's how I usually do all my things. Now click on the strap, put it in a folder, straps. This won't do anything, it's just for organization purposes, so I can keep all of my straps in this one folder. Now there are 2 more straps here by the holes. Next one is down here. Oh, there's 2 more. Okay. That's it. Now I can just close the straps, so it's pretty organized. We move on to this yellow thing, which is still gonna be the blade part, so it's all gonna be in this blade folder. I'm gonna add a new item, pink. Pink 1, because I have multiple. Select the first one, and this is now a pink one. Put it on the blade, put it in a folder, call it pink, and put this pink item here, just position it. Select a new item, pink 2. Lock it on pink 1, because it's now relative to it. Enable the grid, put it down. That's all you need to do. Rename the pink one to pink in the timeline to avoid confusions. Again, for pink 3, select this item which had the edges removed. Lock it on pink 1. I'm just gonna call it extrusion because I'm gonna lock the other one on it so I can just scale 1. Pink 4, the last one, lock it on the extrusion. put it 16 down. Now I can turn the grid off. Now if I compare these, this pink is too thick. I want to scale this down a little bit so it matches the sword a bit more. It can be a bit thicker just to keep it more dynamic. Go to extrusion, extrude that, just put it on 2 because this looks nice. We need nice extrusion. This is now my top thing. This is now the blade part. I can simply close this. I want to add a new item, handle 1, and I want to go for this item right here. As you see, I forgot to remove the brackets. This is why I didn't close this but minimized it so I can still come here. Go File, Save As, put this on PNG, Save, Replace, OK, Flatten, Undo. I still have my layers. I modified the image. The brackets didn't go away. You know why? Because you have to go into Resources, click this item sheet, and click this icon. Replace the selected resource with a new file. Now just browse for the same one, and this is it. Like, it's updated now. The handle, put this to 000. Put the handle in a folder, call this handle. This is now your main handle folder. Put it somewhere up here or so. I want to put all the components of the blade and move them slightly away. As for this handle item, I want to center it. It is centered completely. Perfect. Maybe center it up and down, so put it on 8. Now it's completely centered, right? Duplicate it and rotate it 90 degrees to the left. Put these two in a folder. Call it segment. I'm putting stuff in folders to keep it organized. You can do anything you want. Select both the segments. Increase the Z until you're happy with the shape. This looks like a nice round. I messed it up. Okay, let's go for the Z, which is bigger. Like, don't do this because now the sides are what's visible. Increase the Z way up so you get this. So now the textures are actually visible. I don't want to go above this, so I want to scale the X down instead. This is now one segment. Put it up here. I want to move the blade items slightly inwards. Now the blade is definitely in. Put the pink closer. Now this is it. Now I want to duplicate this segment. Turn on the grid. Put it exactly... Oh no, I can't turn on the grid. Okay. 30 minus 16. I think it's 14. Now it's exactly in the same place. Perfect. Duplicate this segment. 14 minus 16. I'm just gonna use a calculator, that's what I'm gonna do. Minus 1.62. This is it. Duplicate this segment. I want to keep it this long. Now it's a pretty big scythe. I'm pretty much done. All I need now is that little cap. Add a new item, cap 1. Browse for the cap. Lock it on the handle. Now just position it where you want it. Rename it to cap in the timeline. Add a new item, cap 2. Select the cap. Lock it on the cap, and now extrude one of them, and there we go. This transition here, I don't like this transition. I want to add a cube transition. Lock this onto the handle. Obviously it's too big, but I want to position the cube to serve as my transition from the handle to the item. I think if I had something like this, would be nice. Mix color 100%. Now try to find... If you want to find the exact image, press print screen on your keyboard, open up the paint.net, click File New, paste, and now select one of these pixels. Copy this number right here, copy it, and paste it in here. Now it's exactly the same number as the item, and this is a nicer transition to it. This is it. This is not one item now, this is 2 items. Put this in the ground. Where this thing is going to be in the ground, this is where the center rotation point is going to be. I'm going to put this in a folder, and now this is the ground. Call this Shadow Scythe, and of course I can now just drag it out. And this is my item with Shadow Scythe. Log both of these two, so now you can't click anywhere on it, so you can only animate it from the timeline, so you don't mess anything up. And it's got a nice rotation point from the center, like this is it. One last thing you guys need. Okay, now you see the site looks nice, so you can simply close your paint.net without saving anything because everything you need is in this project already. You can delete this image, you have it right here, but now this site is very big. If I import a human, this doesn't work as a weapon. Come on, it doesn't work like that. Make a new frame for the site, turn it sideways, just move it in front of the Steve. Now simply scale the entire site down until you're happy with the size. Let's say 0.5 to make it a little bigger so it looks more badass. So 0.5 is my measure. You can copy this, delete the frame, and paste it in here. So this is now the size you need. You can now delete the Steve, remove it from the project. It's renamed, it's locked, everything is here, so this is it. This is now your weapon. You now have an advanced weapon. Thank you. Took me forever, by the way, and it's pretty complex, but now you know how to do it. This is how I made the Oblivion weapon pack, this is how I made this weapon pack. It's gonna be released shortly, so keep an eye out for it. I'm gonna give you the download link and everything. I would say that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Leave your suggestions in the comments for me to make more tutorials. And if you want to get in touch with me, again, Discord server. And also, if you like my videos, leave a subscribe on it. I will appreciate it a lot. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching the weapon pack. Good luck with your rigging and stay sharp.